The United States Supreme Court has begun hearing arguments today over the legality of Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs that also affect South Africa. The challenge involves 3 lawsuits brought by businesses affected by the tariffs in 12 American states, mostly led by Democrats. Let's get you a live update now. Bring in SABC News Correspondent in Washington, Nick Harper. Nick, good to see you as always. Let's begin with the foundations then, the legal basis on which these parties are taking the U.S. or the Trump administration to court.
Well, that's right. 12 states, largely Democrat-led, and several small businesses taking the president on this legal challenge. Now, they managed to win the case some weeks ago, and it was Donald Trump and his team who asked the Supreme Court to intervene, taking this all the way to the highest court in the United States. And essentially, whatever is decided here will remain in effect. There is no opportunity for it to be overturned by either side, and that is why Donald Trump is hoping that he will be able to prevail. Now, he used a not much used emergency power dating back to 1977 to put these tariffs in place. He said that they were necessary to reduce the trade deficit with more than 100 countries around the world. But the people who challenged him, those small businesses, the Democrat-led states, they say that he overstepped his authority by using that emergency power to put the tariffs into place. They say that Congress should have been the ones to have the final say on whether this power could have been used to impose the tariffs. Of course, the president says that he has ultimate authority as the man who is leading the nation. And he says it's important not just for national security, but the economic and financial security of the country that these tariffs remain.
And how is Trump defending himself against this latest legal action related to the tariffs, Nick?
Well, it's interesting to note that he feels so strongly about this that he was even thinking of appearing here at the Supreme Court and arguing the case in his favor. He would be the first president to ever do so. We do, however, know that the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, he is inside the building behind me as part of the Trump administration delegation arguing this before the 9 Supreme Court justices. The president himself, though, took to social media last night with a late appeal to the Supreme Court, urging them to side with him. And in that post, he said that it would be life or death for the United States, depending on which way the Supreme Court went. He said victory would mean tremendous but fair financial and national security. He said without it, if the Supreme Court went against him, the US would be virtually defenseless against countries around the world, even going as far to say it would lead to the ruination of the nation were he to lose. He says economic security created by tariffs is paramount, suggesting there will be consequences for the US. The recession could even be possible if the Supreme Court do not decide that his tariffs should be the letter of the law.
And I remember the day when he made the proclamation around these tariffs, he called it, I think, Liberation Day, he said it was for the United States. For the context of those of us who are outside the United States, then, Nick, just explain to us why this matter is playing out in the Supreme Court specifically.
Well, it will have the ultimate say, being the highest court in the land. But as you mentioned, there are international implications. Many here in the United States are wondering what it would mean if the tariffs were cancelled, what it would mean for businesses, what it would mean for the economy, what it would mean simply for all that uncertainty that is in place. But from an international dynamic, many countries around the world are watching this, including South Africa, that has that 30% tariff rate imposed against it, one of the highest, some going all the way up to about 50%. Of course, if those tariffs were removed overnight, it would make a tremendous difference to all those countries who are exporting goods into the United States that are quite simply more expensive when they arrive here on the shores of America. And those are costs that are often being passed on to US consumers. So this is being watched closely in the US, but it will have massive implications right around the world, what is decided at the Supreme Court.
Briefly then, as far as challenges or tests to Trump policies since his return for this administration at the beginning of the year, how significant is this one? And is it a foregone conclusion that because the majority of the justices of the Supreme Court were appointed by Republican presidents, that the foregone conclusion here is that they will go or rule in Trump's favor?
Well, the expectation is that they perhaps are more leaning in his favor. The fact that out of those 9 justices, 6 of them are conservative-leaning, 3 of them handpicked by the President Donald Trump himself during his first term. However, I've been listening into the arguments that have been taking place inside, and there already seems to be some skepticism, including from those conservative-leaning judges, that the president actually has the authority to unilaterally impose these tariffs. Of course, for the president, this is central to his economic agenda. It's really his signature policy, having these tariffs in place. He wants them to remain. The other businesses, those Democrat-led states, and of course more than 100 countries around the world, I'm sure would love to see those tariffs disappear. We're going to get some indication during the course of today which way the Supreme Court is likely to rule, but we may not get that ruling for several weeks, perhaps even months yet to come.
All right, Nick Harper, thank you very much for that. SABC News Correspondent live for us in Washington tonight.